It's time for your weekly V8 fix, and with the New Zealand summer of circuit racing hitting full stride, this week's question is, in the modern era of the New Zealand V8 Championship, i.e. from 2000 on, who holds the balance of power in terms of championship wins, Ford or Holden? We'll come back to you at the end of the show with that. In the meantime, this is NZV8 TV. Brought to you by Smits Group, suppliers of leading automotive brands, Newlon, Maguire's, House of Colour, Spice Hacker, and a whole lot of other stuff to keep your V8 shiny, cool and fast. Not quite standard? Well, neither are NAC Insurance. They understand. nac.co.nz. On the show this week, we were at the recent NZ GTR meeting at Taupo, where we checked out a really cool Ford that was actually driven by a Holden or something like that. And speaking of interesting Fords, we look at a MkV Cortina that's been morphed into the world's fastest custard square. And with only a week to go, Angus is all in a fog as to what to drive, a Ford or a Holden? I reckon I could tell you the answer. We catch up with them as they try to work it out. The Dunlop Targa might be over for another year, but we caught up with a few of the cars at Hampton Downs, which was really just an excuse to look at this cool new track. And keeping with our theme of yellow cars on today's show, this one is a Camaro, and it's a big block, which makes it extra sweet. In this part of the world, you're either a Ford or a Holden person by birth, but some people just have to break the rules.
Name's Greg Holden, and I'm from Henderson in Auckland, and I drive a Ford.
Greg's Holden, you drive a Ford?
Yeah, that's right. The car's a 1972 XA Falcon Coupe. It's running a Cleveland, which is stroked to about 383. We've got about 500 horsepower at the rear wheels. Just a 4-speed top loader and a 9-inch Detroit locker. The brakes are Woolworths up front and standard XA Falcon at the rear. It's all been built as a race car, all welded, seam welded and everything, back to bare metal. And as you can see, it's like a Superbird replica. The Aussies, I suppose they wanted to try and sell a few more of them at the end of the run, and they brought out a limited edition, like a limited edition run of with a Superbird on the side of it. There was only one of them built like that with the big bird, and all the actual production run of them were actually a smaller bird that was just behind the petrol cap on the sides. The colour's actually Octane, which is a late model Falcon colour. Pookie, we're about a 109 is the best so far, and around here, well, I think it was 149, but it was first go on the track. This is the first meeting, so yeah, first year, so yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be good fun. Fully learning. Yep, just the greenhorn. All the other guys seem to be bloody good to get on with, and you know, like there's a bit of respect here and there, and if not, there'll be a bit of rubbing, won't there? So it'll all be good.
Yes, rubbing is racing, Greg, but don't mess up those pretty graphics down the side of your car. Welcome to the sport, and you're a great example of how this new form of GT racing is encouraging interesting people and their interesting cars out onto the track to play. Now, speaking of interesting cars, you don't get much more interesting than a 700 horsepower MkV Cortina. You wouldn't exactly call it pretty, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but when you see this thing running on the track, you can't help but love it and cheer it on.
It's an old MkV Cortina, running a 355 Chevy, and as you can see, it's all injected and got a 4-speed Jericho, and just the standard 9-inch diff in the back, and big wheels and a lot of crazy parts. Don't really know the horsepower, but with other guys' horsepowers and the speed I can get, you're probably looking at 700, I'd say. It's actually a Grant Brennan engine, which is just a cast iron block, and Brodex alloy heads. And as you can see, it's all injected, all Motec management running the whole system, and yeah, just a mean machine. Yeah, all the body's been widened, and all fiberglass, or mostly fiberglass, and same wheelbase, but at length, but certainly a lot wider, bigger wheels, certainly. A 16-inch, which all the Trans Ams traditionally ran. Yeah. So yeah, easy tyre to get, and they work well. All wheel woods, yep, front and rear, yep, 6 pots on the front and 4 pots on the back. When I started out with it, it was a cheap sort of club car, and it's just slowly developed to this point. Probably if you started out with a Corvette, probably would have ended up cheaper to start with, but you just sort of work on what you started with. Saying that, this is my 4th season, so I haven't been in it too long. Never raced anything before, just straight into this. It's a big jump from nothing to this. Pukekohe's the best, is a minute 1 at Pukekohe and minute 36 here at Taupo. Hopefully by the end of today it will be at the pointy end of the GD2s. Yeah, the GD1s and GD2 are running in the same race, but we're split class. So you're not having to actually compete with the GD1s. So you've got more of a chance of winning your race. Even though you're not winning the total race, you're still going to get full points as GT2.
We've talked before about what makes GTR racing so cool, and Peter and his screaming yellow Cortina sum it up to a T. Go the Tina! Earlier in the show I said you're either a Ford or a Holden guy, but some people are just a little bit confused as to what team they're on. NZV8 Ford driver Angus Fogg, 1 week out from the start of the season, is still trying to decide what car they will use.
We built this car about 5 years ago at International Motorsport, brand new for Paul Peterson. He had a massive crash here at Pukekohe at the end of the season, and we've rebuilt it, and I've run it ever since. It's been a really good car. We're testing, obviously. We've got Beauty and the Beast out here. We've got the Falcon, which we know and love, and it's all stick it up and looking beautiful. And we've got Kevin's old Commodore, which we've just sort of cobbled together, and it's actually not going too bad. I started my V8 career in a Holden with Team Kiwi and with Ken Hopper in the New Zealand V8, so it's just like going home, really. Every year the Holdens seem to get more and more and more, and the Ford guys just sort of swallow it and get on with it and work hard over the winter and come out firing again. This year I think it might have gone a little bit too far. We wanted to cover our bases. We had the luxury of having both cars, so we decided to get both going and back-to-back test them. We're still only talking tenths of seconds. It's not a clear-cut sort of an argument. Dyno figures don't really mean much when you get to the track, so here we are a week out from the first meeting wondering which car we're going to use. I guess that's good because it means that there isn't, you know, if it was a very clear-cut thing we'd jump from one to the other, you know, like no tomorrow, but we're still arguing with ourselves which one we're going to use. Yeah, well, our cars here are very much based on a road going Ford or Holden that you can buy off the used car lot or from the wrecker in our case. Whereas the cars in Australia are, you know, as well as being 4 times the price, there's really not a lot left of a Ford or a Holden. They certainly look like them, but the engine, there's really nothing left, maybe the badge on the grille, you know. In a nutshell, the Ford's like a big lazy boy armchair. It just cruises around the track, soaks up all the bumps. And as I said, the Holden's a bit like a bucking Bronco. So, yeah, it's 6 of one, half the other, dozen the other. They have their little pluses and minuses, but when it comes to an overall lap time, they're very similar. Today, the Holden's been faster. But the Fords, you know, we've only got our number 2 engine in and a few little problems that we know about. So, as I said, it's all going to go back to we'll go back to the shop and look at the data, and that will paint a picture for us.